Welcome back to another data analysis session. I'm Gabriel Udio and I'm a data analyst at Data Playground. Today's session will be starting with SQL. Now, in our last session, we looked at spreadsheets. To be very specific, we made use of Google Sheets to do most of our work. And now we try to understand the fact that at some point, it's very possible that uh, a company's data could live inside spreadsheets alone. For example, TradeFlow, the company we've been working with, we had just we can say we had just one table and everything was squeezed into rows and columns side by side. But now the company has grown, it's large, so everything has changed. And so the company's data now lives inside a real database. And this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what that means, exactly how to open it, and how to look inside that database. And so by the end of this video, you'd have a full understanding of what a database actually is. You'd be comfortable opening and navigating tools, and you'd have looked inside TradeFlow's real data with your own eyes. So let's start from the very beginning. What exactly is a database? Before we try to look at any software, let's try to look at what a database is in a very plain language, because every other thing from here is going to build on our understanding of what database is. Now, starting with spreadsheets, we already know that a spreadsheet is like one big table. You have multiple rows and multiple columns, and so like every piece of information, sits in the same sheet, and it's sitting side by side. And of course, that's very okay whenever your data is small. But for a company that now has, thousands of customers and thousands of orders, and it creates a new kind of problem, because if I store a customer's name and email, for example, next to every single order they've ever placed, and a customer decides to place an order 10 times, now it means that I'm going to have to type their name and email 10 separate times. And so that's going to create 10 separate chances for an error. And also in 10 separate places, I would have to fix. For example, if the customer decides to change their email, it means that I'll have to start looking for the 10 separate places where that customer used the old email and then start trying to change an email. And it's possible that I might even make a mistake of not changing everything. And so that leaves us with two emails for just one single customer. And then doing analysis, the question pops up. I see two emails and I'm like, okay, so which do I actually trust here? Now, this is one problem that a database solves. Instead of having a big table the way you have it in spreadsheets, what database uses is several smaller tables, and each table is responsible for exactly just one kind of thing. For example, you have one table that is just for customers, one table is just for orders. So you only have to type a customer's name once in the and it's stored in the customers table, and every other table that always needs to refer to that customer just points directly to them instead of having to copy their details all over again. So that's the entire idea of a database. It's just smaller tables, and each of these tables just has one job, and somehow they are connected to each other instead of you having to repeat themselves in the same table. And so that concept is what we call relational database, because the tables are then related to one another. And so the company which we've been working with, TradeFlow, which is the data we are going to try to see, it's built exactly this way. It's split into tables. All right, so let's get straight to it. So for this section, we are going to be making use of the Beaver Community Edition. It's a universal database management tool and SQL clients for everyone who needs to work with data in a professional way. Now, I already installed it, so all you need to go to is your app store, and then you have just search the Beaver CE Community Edition, and then you can go ahead to open it. So since I've installed it, I'm just going to open it and let's see what the tool looks like. So mine is loading. Okay, give it some time and let's see. Language, I'll use English. Yeah, I want uh the full database structure view in navigator. And then yeah, I think I like the dark theme. I might like the dark theme. I don't know what it looks like. Next, and then yeah, let me just share anonymous user statistics. Next, and now I don't want to create a sample. Turn on tip of the year. So I'm just going to apply that and then let's see what we have inside this tool. All right, so this is just what it looks like, right? This is just what the interface of DBeaver Community Edition looks like. We can see a panel on the left here. This left panel is called the database navigator. So every connection we create will live here, and of course, um, so right now it's empty, right? Because we've not created any connection here. Um, so since there's no connection there, I think we can just go ahead and create a new connection. So to create a new connection, we just get to this, we can see this plug that's here, right? This is for creating a new connection where the plug that has a plus sign, and then I'm going to click on it. And then I'm going to select SQLite. This is SQLite here. Okay, select SQLite and then next. Now, of course, I'm going to have to open the file. That's the database I want us to look at. I want us to connect to. So I'll open, mind you, I'm going to drop the link to the database in the description of this video. So please do well to check the description of this video to see the link to the database we are working with. So where did I save this? Let's see. Yep. Which is this? No, this SQL. This is, yeah, TradeFlow database. So I'm going to just open it and then finish. So now we can see it by the left panel here, right? So let's make sure that we actually have all our tables inside. So I'm just going to click this arrow that is here. What do I have here? The driver download. So I'm just going to download. That shouldn't take long. Okay, so let's see. We can see this has opened. We can see different folders here. Let's just see what's in our tables here. Well, let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this database actually has 8 tables which are connected to each other, which are related to each other, right? We can see we have the customers table, we have the deliveries table, we have the employees table, we have the other items, we have the orders, we have the payments, we have products, and then we have regions, right? So all these now we can see that, yeah, our connection is there already, right? So let's try to see what is inside one of these tables. Let's just see what is inside one of these tables. I'll just okay. Wow. So we already know that this customers table has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6, right? This customers table has 6 columns in there, and we have the data type. For example, the customer ID is going to be an integer, the customer name is going to be text values, emails are text values, country text values, the region ID is an integer, sign update text values. So this just basically gives us the property of this particular table, right? So now let's try to see how to, we are going to try to write our first query, right? Let's try to do that. Let's see how we can. So I'm just going to right click on this TradeFlow.db here, and then we can see SQL. I'm used to always saying SQL anyway. By the way, did I tell you what the meaning? What SQL mean? Okay, SQL means a structured query language. Okay, so I'm just going to open a new SQL script. Let's see, so tradeflow.db scripts, and we are going to query this database. Now By query, I simply mean that we are trying to like ask questions from this database and we need answers. That's a simple way to put what query is all about. You are trying to ask questions, right? You need answers. So we are going to be querying this database, right? And it's going to give us answers in return. So now the most basic command in SQL is the select. Select simply means show me. For example, if we want to select everything from this table, I'm going to say select asterisk from. Okay, so we want to just work with the customers table, right? Just the customers table there. So I'm going to say customers and then put my semicolon. And then you can either press this play button here to execute the SQL query, or on your keyboard you can just hold the control key and the enter key at the same time, and then you see what you have down here. So what do we have? We have the customer ID. We have okay, let's see. We have customer ID. We have customer name. We have emails. I'm double clicking that so that it expands itself. We have country. We have region ID. We have, oh, sorry about this, we have the sign up dates. So what can we see? Customer ID, we can see now. Let's confirm something. When we open our when we try to look at the properties of the customer table, because remember we are what we the table we're looking at here is the customers table. So when we open the property, we saw customer ID contains integer values, and looking at this here, by integer values we simply mean whole numeric numbers. Numbers that contain 0 to 9, there are no decimals, right? Those are integer values. So of course that's what we can see here. So properties of this table, yeah. Then customer name, you can see there are text values, emails are text values, countries text values, region ID are also integers, sign up dates are text values here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, text values here, and I guess it's because of the dashes that you have there. Now of course, how wide or how large or how many customers rather do you have? I think it's better to put it that way. So I'll just try to scroll down and let's try to see how many customers this customer table alone contains. So we actually have 2000 customers. We have 2000 customers here. That's actually something very very interesting to look at. Now in tables we have what we call primary keys and we have what we call the secondary keys, right? Now this primary key is how do I try to how do I try to paint a picture now. Now when you talk about this primary key is like it's it's something that is generated like specifically for this table. Now if you were to, okay, if you were to, okay, let me say the first place of existence of a primary key is in, let's say, its own, how is that, does it make any sense at all? Is, I wouldn't say like its own table. Okay, for example, let me just give a simple example. For example, in the customer ID table, this customer ID is going to be a primary key because this way is generated, right? Now, if I open another table, for example, a table on orders or employees or deliveries, and I'm seeing customer ID in that particular table, at that point, customer ID becomes a secondary key because that's not its primary table, right? What makes it a primary key is if it's existing in its own primary table. That's like it's, you are looking at it from where it was first created, where it was first generated. I don't like want to give like just a definition. I think I prefer to like create an instance where you can understand, okay, what a primary key is and then what a secondary key is. In this table, customer ID is a primary key. If I were to go to another table, for example, the others table, it will become a secondary key, right? Okay. Anyways, you definitely see what that means. I'll show you what I mean as we move forward. Now, in this case, now we've been able to look at what the full customers table contains, right? Now, what if we now wanted to narrow our search down and wanted to say, okay, let's now look at what customer is, let's say, having an ID of 1042. Now, of course, we can't just be scrolling, right? So what we would rather say will now be something like this: select the full table from customers, right? And then we have the where. Now we want to look at where the customer ID is 1042. So customer ID is equals 1042. And then I'll run that. Now we can see just one person who is exactly at that point. The person's name is Linda Rich. It brings out all our details, our email, our country. So this is what it's like to query a database. You're asking questions. I want to know this. And so I just write a simple command and then it returns what I need from it. Now, can you see region here? We can see region, right? Region ID, this in this case is referring to the regions. For example, if we were to go to the regions table now, this region ID is going to be a primary key in the regions table. That's just what it basically means here. Okay, so moving forward, we can go further to try to even see a relationship, right? For example, let's say we want to look at the others table now, but now we want to look at the others table in terms of customer ID. For example, this particular customer, I already told you that in the customers table here, customer ID is a primary key, right? But now we want to know. Okay, let me just show you what I mean. Select from now the others, that's this table that is here, others table, where customer ID is equals to 1042. Now I want to go to another table while still using this same key to refer to what we want there. So this now is gotten from the others table. Now we can see very well customer ID now in this case is referring to what look at this. We have a column customer ID channel or table others. We're looking inside the others table now, but the customer ID is referring to customers. So in this case, customer ID is a secondary key. Other ID now is a primary key in this case here. And so with this kind of with the query that we just wrote now, we can see that, for example, if we're trying to select everything from others and we want to look at the customer ID that's specifically 1042, already in our customers table there's someone at that 1042. Now that person at that 1042 could have placed multiple orders. So every time we refer to that particular person with that same customer ID, if the person placed 1,000 orders, by the time we run this query, we'll see all of the person's orders. Now, if we're working in spreadsheets, how spreadsheet will work is that if the person has placed 1,000 orders, we would have had to type those 1,000 orders, right? But in the case of database, or sorry, let me say, in the case of spreadsheet, if the person places 1,000 orders inside the same sheet, we would have to type that 1,000 orders. So every time we need to make changes to this person details, we have to change everything about those 1,000. For example, the person changes email, we have to go and change the email 1,000 times. But in the case of a database, you just need to, for example, you have a particular table that probably contains all your customers' emails, and so you just go there and change the email once, and then every single place that customer appears, it automatically applies to that particular person, right? For example, the person already has a customer ID and you want to know, okay, what are the orders that this person has placed, right? You just simply look for the person's order ID, and then you filter it, you refer to the table that contains all the person's orders, and then you're able to bring out everything. So this is why relational database is necessary. It allows you to it's let me say it reduces how complex a single record would have been by pushing everything into smaller tables. each table containing their own values, like okay, a set of related values here. For example, the names of the customers and maybe probably a few other details within them, and maybe their emails, the regions that they come from, and also each table is referring to a particular thing. And to be able to to cut across the, we just need to start picking the values. Okay, I pick this, I pick what I want, I pick what I want. And the most interesting part of it is that in SQL, it allows you to work in a way that you can pick specific details that you want and build a new table out of it. So, for example, you can decide to build a special table for just this customer that has an ID of 1042 by picking the person's details, person's the delivery details, the person employee number, the other items, and all. It just allows you to do that easily, and you can even create a new table out of it. So SQL just makes the whole idea of querying data much easier, right? Okay, so let's try to look at just one more thing that's here, right? Let's say select, let's try to run this query and see what we have. Select, sorry, let's spell that. Select what do we want to say? Should we select a specific? Okay, okay, let's just select everything. So select from let's say what we have. Okay, we have a table on other items, so we select from other um items, and that's this table. I'm trying to refer to this particular table here, and I want to say where the other ID is this 8769. Let's see what it looks like. Where other ID is equals 8769, and let's see what that represents there, so that it gives us more meaning into our data, right? So let's see. Here we have the other item ID is a primary key here, and then the other ID now, the other ID which was a primary key in the others table, by the time you get to the other items table, it becomes a secondary key, right? Okay, so we have these are all the cases of the 8769. These are all the other IDs that have 8769. Then each product still has their ID, so you can see the unit, the quantity, right? For example, a product ID of 21, you can see the quantity that was bought of that product, and then you can see the unit's price. And then it just basically allows you to like easily look through each table by filtering everything together. So this video was not to write the most complex queries, but to give us an insight into uh, what's how do I put it, or what a database is, and how SQL or SQL works, right? So, like I said, customer ID. If you're having customer, if you're talking about customer ID in an order table, at that point it becomes a foreign key, right? Or maybe a secondary key. Let's say secondary key. Yeah, yeah. Foreign key, secondary key probably means the same thing. And then if it exists in its own table, it's called a primary key. So we've seen this is the tool we are going to be working with throughout this session. It's called the Beaver Community Edition, and we're able to connect it to our TradeFlow database, not the .sql script. And we also were able to confirm that all the tables were visible, right? And we're able to carry out select from the table name. Of course, this is the table name, and this is what you want to filter with. So in our next video, we are going to go much further with the select and where foundation. We are going to try to sort results. We are going to group them. We are going to ask real business questions of trade flows data. So please, if you've not been following the um, where we started on data analysis, you can check out. I'm going to drop the link to the playlist in the description of this video. You can start from scratch, from the very beginning, cover through spreadsheets down to dashboards, everything in visualization, analysis using spreadsheets, and so get to SQL and then continue following through. Please do well to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.